Thanks for tuning in to Know Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're talking about a specific Italian varietal called Dolcetto. So Dolcetto is a grape that's native to the northwest part of Italy in a place called Piedmont or Piemonte. This specific grape, though, has been transplanted to other parts of the world, so you may know it by some of its other synonyms. In France, we call that Chasselet Noir, and if it made its way to the United States, we may call this grape Charbono. But in its home, in northwestern Italy, we'll see it labeled clearly on a wine bottle as Dolcetto di something. So some of the most famous appellations are Dolcetto di Acqui, Dolcetto di Alba, and Dolcetto di Asti. So we look for those specific labels in our stores and we'll know we're talking about exactly that, the Dolcetto grape. So interestingly enough, when we translate the word Dolcetto from Italian to English, it means the little sweet one. Well, that's interesting because the grape itself doesn't have an unusually high sugar content and it's rarely ever made into a sweet wine. So where did it get its name? Well, there's legend and lore that goes back to the ancient days in Piemonte when the king grape of that area is one called Nebbiolo. And Nebbiolo is known for ripening very late. And we bring on Dolcetto. Dolcetto would ripen about a month and a half before Nebbiolo. And what's interesting is vintners in that area would plant Dolcetto as a cover crop around Nebbiolo. Now why would they do that? They did that because the birds in that particular area would come and feast on the Dolcetto, which ripened a month before Nebbiolo. And over that course of time, they would get kind of sick of eating grapes, so that when Nebbiolo came on in its full ripeness, then Nebbiolo would not be bothered by the birds. So Dolcetto was kind of a sacrificial lamb in the growing of Nebbiolo. Now they've always made wine from Dolcetto, and what's interesting about it is it's an extremely flexible grape. It's a grape that provides medium tannins, low to medium acid, and a decent amount of sugar to produce a moderately high alcohol wine. So because of that flexibility, it's a wine that can be used with a lot of different dishes. Now up in the Piedmont area, they use a lot of dishes based on beans, roasted meats. If you've ever heard of something called ossobuco or braised veal shank, where veal shank is braised and then cooked for hours and hours in an oven, that's where that was invented, and this is a wine that would go beautifully with that type of cuisine. So with it being a flexible grape, it's one that's going to have mass appeal to a large audience of wine lovers. So this particular one I have for you today is Lardi from the Banfi family, and this is a Dolcetto di Acqui. So let's go ahead and take a look at it so that you can get an idea of what you can expect from your Dolcetto purchase. So the first thing that we notice when we look at the wine is we see that the wine is semi-transparent. We can actually see a beautiful ruby or garnet color in the glass, and we can actually see through the wine. So it's not really super thick. If we swirl to liberate some of the aromas, what we get out of the glass is a bit of almost like a potpourri. There's a lot of kind of dried flowers, a little bit of cassis or black currant, and just a slight bit of spiciness coming out of the glass. Well, let's go ahead and taste. I'd mentioned before that Dolcetto is an extremely flexible wine. So when it went across my palate, the first thing I noticed was ripe red cherries. And then that quickly kind of faded into a little bit of almost cranberry, and then some spiciness that was somewhere in between pepper and baking spices came through, all the while being supported by significant acidity that will allow it to cut through a lot of different cuisines. So extremely pleasant, but also extremely drinkable. So I would encourage you, if you've never tried a Dolcetto, go out and try one. I think you'll find it to be quite enjoyable. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Please tune in next time, and soon you'll know wine in no time.